Dia faly miarabantsika tsara aminay androany.
Hello, ladies and gents.
Dia araka ny fandazen'ny bileko teo voalohany ho anahy manokana mitoroteny amin'ny teny gasy.
As Blake said, it's the first time that I'm preaching in Malagasy.
Dia nefa ny tena fifaliana teo anahy satria teny mba isan'ny teny kely mba voafehy.
But I'm very happy about that and excited because it's one of the few languages that I really know.
Dia mankasitraka be antsiresy koa nanaiky ndika teny amin'ny teny anglisy.
Thank Sires for accepting to translate in English.
Dia araka ny variantsika araka ny fatantsika manaraka vakiteny iombona antsika mafindonana antsika zao.
As we know, we following the same readings as a church.
Dia misy atsika amin'izao dia amin'ny bokin'ny Apokalipsy.
So we're in the book of Revelation now.
Dia ao anatin'izay sady hampirisika atsika hatrany hoe tena ataovy izay azo atao hamakiana ny boky.
So I'd like to lead us to do as much as possible to read the reading that we read together.
Tena zava-dehibe ny ahafahantsika mamaky ny tenin'Andriamanitra.
Reading the word of God is really important.
Fomba anankiray zany anehoantsika hoe ny tenin'Andriamanitra no fahefana faratampony amin'ny fiainantsika.
It's one way to show that God's word is really the top authority in our lives.
Dia amin'ny lafiny iray koa nefa manampy be ho amin'ny asa fitandremana izy manampy be aminay.
But also for us as elders and pastors, it really helps us.
Satria mahafantatra izay hoe izao zany vakian'ny fiangonana.
Because with that we keep track of what the church has read.
Mahafantatra hoe aiza ho aiza zany misy atsika amin'izao fotoana izao.
We also know where we are in God's word.
Dia farany manampy atsika koa izy hitombo miaraka amin'ny fiangonantsika.
And finally, it helps us to all of us as a church to grow together.
Dia engany mba tena hoararotsika izay tombontsoa be ahafahantsika miaraka mamaky ny tenin'Andriamanitra izay.
So let us take advantage of this way to connect with God.
Dia mizaha mihitsy mifampiresaka, fampantany ohatra ny ahoana inona ny zavatra voarainao tamin'ny teny vakianao.
And I'd like to incite us to read and to talk together, ask questions, and discuss what we've read. Each of us has read.
Dia izay zavatra tena manampy indrindra rehefa mamaky boky somary sarosarotra ohatran'ilay Apokalipsy.
And discussing like that really helps when you read God's word or books that are really difficult, such as the book of Revelation that we're reading now.
Dia alohan'ny hidirantsika amin'ny vakiteny ho an'ny toroteny androany.
And before we go into the word that we're going to read today,
izy fampidirana kely tiako zaraina ihany momba ny bokin'ny Apokalipsy ity.
Here is a little introduction that I'd like to share to us about the book of Revelation.
Dia ao anatin'ny rehefa mamaky tenin'Andriamanitra isika dia reto zavatra manampy alohan'ny tsara ho fantatra rehefa mamaky ny tenin'Andriamanitra.
So here are a few things that you have to know when you read God's word.
Dia voalohany izy nanoratra ny boky.
First, you have to ask yourself who wrote the book.
Faharoa izy nanoratana azy.
And then you have to know who's the audience, who is the book written for.
Fahatelo tamin'ny mety vanim-potoana inona nanoratana azy.
And then the third thing is in which period was the book written.
Dia raha momba ny bokin'ny Apokalipsy ity zao nanoratra azy dia Jona apôstôly.
So for this book of Revelation, the author is John the apostle.
Dia ny olona nanoratana azy dia ireo fiangonana fito tao Asia Minora.
And he wrote it to the seven churches in Asia Minor.
Araka ny fahitantsika tamin'ny herinandro.
It's as we've seen last week.
Dia ny vanim-potoana nanoratana azy teo eo amin'ny taona fahasivifolo teo.
So he wrote it around 90 to 95 AD.
Dia afaka nefa ny sinarina. Dia ohatrohatr'izao ty misy karta kely maneho.
So here's a little map.
Eto zao zao natao amin'ity le apôstôly natao amin'ny ilha kely hoe Patmos.
So he's on the island of Patmos, you can see there. That's where John is.
Dia reto ilay figurana anankifito izay anoratana.
And here are the 7 churches he's writing to.
Dia ity zao Jerusalema.
And here is Jerusalem at the bottom right there.
Dia atao anaty Egypta.
And then right at the south is Egypt.
Dia atao faritra Melanosina. Dia aty ambanimbany aty any ambany io zany Egypta dia ao ananao Afrika.
And then further down is Africa, further down the south of Egypt.
Aty ambanimbany aty ambany ty amin'izay any Madagascar.
And then further down is Madagascar, further south.
Dia izay manaraka. Dia miresaka momba ny vanim-potoantsika dia teanao karazana kilalao kely alohan'ny hidirantsika amin'ity zavatra ity hatsangany ny tanantsika rehetra izay hatsangany daholo fotsiny tanana aloha hatsangany tanana.
So let's I'd like to play a little game before we start. So let's all raise our hands first.
Dia nisy zavatra teneniko dia raha mbola tsy teraka ianao tamin'ity taona ity dia ampidino ny tanana.
So I'm going to say different dates, years, and if you went,
mbola tsy teraka tamin'ilay taona ianao dia ampidino ny tanana.
If you were not born yet, then you put your hand down.
2021 tsika zao dia
2021.
2010 izy efa teo tamin'ny 2010.
Who was born already in 2010?
Izy zavakely mbola mbola ohatrany somary teo daholo
I think all of us were still already born in 2010, except the little kids. 2000.
Izy efa teo tamin'ny 2000.
Who was born already in 2000?
Dia ampidino izay mbola tsy teraka.
So those who weren't born in 2000, put your hands down. People who are less than 21 years old. So there's less and less people raising their hands.
1990.
1990. I'm not raising my hand anymore. There's less and less people keeping their hands up. 1980. Blake has put his head down. 1970.
Zavatra tiako resana tao anatin'izay tamin'ny taona 70 zany mbola anankiray teto tamintsika rehetra.
So what I want to say is in 1970 only one person among us was already born.
Dia nisy vanim-potoana niainana izay tsy niainantsika.
So there's things that person has lived through that we haven't really gone through.
Tamin'izany mety mbola tsisy Facebook mety mbola tsisy téléphone portable.
Maybe at that time there was no Facebook yet, there was no cell phone. But there's a period that that person has lived through. So if we want to know things that happened in the 1970s or before, we can ask that person. And so on and so forth, here we see the year 1517. Can someone tell me what happens in 1517? So there's not many people who know what happened then, but it's a really important year for the church. It's the year of the Reformation. So if you go even further back in time, we arrive at the year 90. So that's the year in red there, the period in red. It's really something that happened, but we were not born yet at that time. And the church also at the moment in that time.
tao anatin'ny fanjakana Romanina tamin'izany.
So at that time, it was the period of the Roman Empire.
Dia inona ny zavatra nitranga tamin'izany?
So what happened during that time?
Fotoana mafy, fotoana tena mafy ilay izy ho an'ny kristianina.
It was a really, really difficult time for the Christians.
Hitantsika etsy amin'ny fahatia taona 30 mahery teo Jesosy Kristy maty.
Around 30, Jesus was died.
Dia 80 taona taty aorianan'i Jesosy zany fotoana izay nameratana an'ity boky ity.
So the period talking about, the period of this book was 60 years after Jesus died.
Dia anisan'ny mamafy an'izy satria ireo olona nahita maso an'i Jesosy rehetrarehetra dia efa akaiky faty daholo.
One of the difficult things, one of the reasons why it was difficult was because the people who know Jesus, who really know Jesus, were all about to die.
Dia dikan'izany ohatra ny eto zao John angamba sisan'ny apôstôly velona.
So I think John was the last apostle that was still alive at that time.
Zany hoe vao nanomboka mihitsy ny fivavahana kristiana tamin'izany.
So it was still at the inception of the Christian faith.
Dia tamin'izany izy mbola tsy fivavahana ara-dalàna.
So it wasn't really an official church at that time or legal official at that time.
Mbola tsy tena tsy manara-penitra mbola tsy mbola ohatry hoe secte amin'ny
So it was still a little church, almost like a cult, a sect.
Dia ao anatin'izany koa zany hoe eritrereto amin'izany tsara no famafisan'le fiainan'ny kristiana tamin'izany.
So you can see how difficult it is.
Dia manarak'izay no injehana zany zareo iny amin'izay hoe ohatry hoe secte zay.
And the church was persecuted at that time.
Dia tao anatin'ny henatra tanteraka ary zareo miafina.
So they were hiding. They had to go into hiding.
Ary fahitantsika tamin'ny hery ihany misy resaka an'le syncrétisme iny.
So last week we talked about syncretism.
Dia tokony tsy manao an'izay zareo dia lasa ohatry ny misitaka amin'ny fiarahamonina.
So in order to not practice syncretism, they had to isolate from the community. Dia raha ohatry ny hoe fitiana zany dia ohatry ny misy zavatra mifanohatra teo amin'ny fiainan'ny kristiana, zavatra anankiroa. Dia ny anankiray ny fanjakana Romanina. So there's two forces that are at play here that are fighting each other. First, there's the Roman Empire.
Dia ny etsy ankilany ny fanjakana Romanina.
And then there's the kingdom of God.
Fanjakana Romanina dia fanjakana Romanina.
The Roman Empire and God's kingdom.
Dia raha fitiana atao fanjakana Romanina dia ohatry ny hoe mahomby be misy fanambinana be.
So if we look briefly at the church, at the Roman Empire, it looks like it's a prosperous thing.
Dia raha ny fanjakana Andriamanitra indray nefa nijerena toa ohatra misy fanenjehana be.
But then in God's kingdom, it looks like there's a lot of persecution.
Dia rariny be raha ohatra ka hoe tamin'izany fotoana tena enjana be ny fakapana ny anjara tamin'ny kristiana.
So as you can understand, it's obvious that the temptations that the Christians had to go through was really difficult and strong.
Zany hoe fakapana avy any amin'ny fanjakan'Andriamanitra ho an'ny fanjakana Romanina.
So it's temptation from God's kingdom to go to the Roman Empire.
Avy amin'ilay hoe toerana enjehana izy mijaly.
So from the situation of being suffering persecution,
mba ho any amin'ny toerana tena hoe miadana feno fanambinana.
They attempted to go to a state of persecution of wealth of prosperity. Sorry. Dia
tena ohatry ny rariny be tena hoe mikoavana ny fakapanana nanjohan'ny zareo.
So it's legitimate that there's a strong temptation at that time.
Satria tena niatra manena ny maha kristiana.
Because
raha ohatry ny kristiana
so because being a Christian could really be something almost like a death sentence sometimes.
Dia eto tsika dia efa manao karazana remarque kely hoe zavatra any anatintsika maha-olombelonantsika mihitsy tia an'io tia fiadana, izy zany tsy tia fiadana.
So here I'd like to say that as human being you want prosperity, well-being.
Fa maika moa fa ohatry ny le toerana misy azy ry zareo tamin'izany tena hoe tery mijaly
But then at that time, they were in a situation of persecution, of suffering.
Dia vao mainka tena ohatry ny misy etaeta be tao amin'ny zareo temba hiaina izany.
So they had a stronger thirst to live in prosperity, in peace.
Dia slide manaraka dia eto indrindra no tanjon'ity boky ity.
So here is the quote of the book.
Tanjon'ity boky ity dia ny ampahery sy ny ampirisika ireo kristianina izay enjehana ho vavolombelona mahatokon'i Jesosy Kristy.
So the goal of the book is to exhort and encourage persecuted Christians to be faithful witnesses of Jesus Christ.
Ho vavolombelona mahatoky Jesosy Kristy.
To be faithful witnesses of Jesus Christ.
Dia ohatra tamin'ny hero izao tsika tamin'ny atoro-teny biblika ny misy an'ilay zavatra nampitandremana sy nampirisihana amin'ny fiangonana tamin'izany.
So last week, for example, we talked during Blake's preach, we talked about the warnings for the churches.
Dia tao anatin'izay hoe mila miaritra, tsy mila manao tsy mila fangaro ny finoana.
So at that time they talked about enduring whatever happens and to not mix and dilute the faith.
Dia raha izay zany tanjon'ilay boky hoe ny ampirisika sy ny ampahery ny kristianina mba hatoky mba ho vavolombelona mahatokon'i Jesosy Kristy.
So if the aim of the book was to exhort and encourage the Christians to be faithful witnesses of Jesus Christ.
Dia ny fanontaniana mipetraka dia ahoana fomba anaovan'ilay boky an'izay.
So now we ask the question, how does the book do that?
Dia fomba anaovan'ilay boky an'izay amin'ny alalan'ny fanambarana.
So how does the book do that? Through revelation.
Dia zava-dehibe ilay teny hoe fanambarana.
Here it's very important to use the word revelation.
Misy karazana zavatra miafina dia sokafana.
So revelation is like something is hidden and then you have to open it
Dia aseho
and show it to the world.
Dia izay no tokony toepotsika rehefa mamaky amin'ny boky io.
So that's the mindset that we have when we have to have when you read that book.
Indraindray ny zavatra mamaky antsika rehefa mamaky an'ity boky ity dia te halala an'ilay zavatra kely, te halala fotsiny. Inona ilay sisy.
So sometimes when you read this book, we just want to know little details, symbols. What does the symbol mean? 666, what does it mean?
Fa indraindray tsy saintsaintsika ilay izy hoe fampaherezana sy famporisihana antsika ho vavolombelona mahatoky amin'ny Jesosy Kristy.
But sometimes it leads to us the fact that this book is really to be witnesses, faithful witnesses of Jesus Christ.
Dia raha fitiana zany tsy tokony boky ampatahotra.
So just to sum it, it shouldn't be a book that frightens you, that scares you.
Fa tena boky tokony amporisika antsika, vakitsika, saintsaintsika.
But it's really a book that should encourage the book that we should read and reflect on.
Dia izay indrindra nidirantsika tao amin'ny tenin'Andriamanitra ao antsika androany mbola fampidirana fotsiny.
So that was just an introduction, and that's just an introduction to read the book of Revelation.
Fanambarana Apokalipsy toko 5 andiny voalohatra amin'ny fahaefatra no vakiantsika.
So now we're going to read Revelations 5, verse 1 to 4.
Dia vakiko amin'ny teny gasy dia tsy resy ny mamaky amin'ny teny.
I'm going to read it in Malagasy and Sires will read it in English.
Aritako fa indro nisy boky voasoratra tao anatiny sy teo ivony voapetaka mafy tamin'ny tombo-kase 7 teo an-tanana ankavanan'ilay mipetraka teo ambony seza fianganana. Aritako fa indro misy anjely mahery miantso tamin'ny feo mafy hoe iza mendrika nokatra ny boky sy hamany tombo-kaseny. Ary tsy nisy tany lanitra na teny an-tany na tany ambanin'ny tany na sokatra ny boky na nahajery azy. Ary nitomany mafy aho satria tsy nisy hita mendrika nanokatra ny boky na hijery azy.
Then I saw in the right hand of him who was seated on the throne a scroll written within and on the back sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a mighty angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and break its seals?" And no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look into it. And I began to weep loudly because no one was found worthy to open the scroll or to look into it.
Eto zany Jona mahita fanambarana mombana boky anankiray
Here, John has seen a revelation about a certain a book,
teo an-tanan'Andriamanitra
a book, a scroll that was in God's hands.
dia nahita anjenika mafy izy iza mahasokatra ny boky sy ny tomboka sy ny fito.
And some angel shouted, who's able to open this book and break the seals, the 7 seals?
Dia hitany fa ohatrany hoe tsy nisy afaka mahavita an'izay zavatra izay.
And he saw that it seemed no one was able to open it and to read it.
Dia mivokatra izay dia tena mitomany mafy izy.
And he started to cry and to weep loudly.
Dia le teny ampiasainy tena hoe mitomany tena mahity.
Here he uses the word weep. Weeping means to cry with bitterness.
Dia izay zany antony nampitomany anazy hoe tsisy mahavoty boky ity.
And that was the reason why he cried, because no one was able to read and to open the scroll.
Le boky sy le tomboka sy
to open the book and the 7 seals that were covering the book.
Dia ny fanontaniana mipetraka amintsika izao.
So here is the question I'm asking.
Fa inona ny boky io?
What was that book then?
Ino ny boky io mahatonga ny jona tomany tahaka izany hoe tsy voavoly, tsisy mahavoly izy.
Where was the book and why was it so important that John was crying that nobody was able to open the scroll, the book?
Dia be dehibe ny ohatrany hoe be dehibe mety fampianarana ry antsika momba ny hoe ino ny boky io.
Maybe we've heard a lot of the teachings and the discussions about what that book was.
Fa rehefa mamaky an'le toyany aorianan'ny toko fadintsika.
But when you read the rest of the scripture,
dia afaka hitantsika hoe ao anatin'izany boky miresaka plan'Andriamanitra momba ny fitsarana sy ny fanavotana.
You'll see that it's a book that represents God's plan of judgment and redemption.
Maneho plan'Andriamanitra ny amin'ny fitsarany sy ny fanavotana.
It shows God's plan about judgment and redemption.
Dia ny fanontaniana mipetraka dia hoe fangamba ny fitsaran'Andriamanitra sy ny fanavotana tsy efa vita teo amin'ny hazo fijaliana.
So now we might ask the question, isn't God's judgment and redemption already done on the cross?
Dia mivaly teny dia efa vita fa mbola.
So the answer is it's already done, but not yet.
Mbola tsy tanteraka.
Not yet totally done.
Fanjakan'Andriamanitra efa tonga fa mbola ho avy.
God's kingdom is already here, but it will yet come. It will still come.
Dia mbola miandry an'izay tsika tsirairay mbola miandry ny fiverenan'i Jesosy.
So we are still here waiting for Jesus' return.
Dia amin'izay fotoana izay no avy ny fitsarana tanteraka.
So when he comes back, then the judgment will take place.
Dia ho avy ny fanavotana antsika tanteraka.
And then the total redemption will take place as well.
So tsika mbola ato anatina tena anankiray mbola mety marary mety faty.
Now we're in human bodies where we can suffer, we can be sick, and we can die.
Efa nandray an'i Jesosy tsika fa mety mbola marary.
Even though we've received Jesus in our lives already, we can still fall sick.
Ary inoako fa mbola ho faty.
And normally we all die as well, unless Jesus comes before we die.
Fa zay le hoe efa tonga izy fa mbola avy.
That's why I say it's already here and not yet here.
Dia afaka eritreretintsika amin'izany. Le resaka fitsarana ihany koa tena zava-dehibe hoe mbola miaina zavatra tsy rariny tsika amin'izao fotoana izao.
When you talk about judgment here, we still live in a situation where there's not totally. We live in a situation where there's still injustice.
Mbola be dehibe ny zavatra iainantsika izay tena hoe indraindray miaina zavatra tsy rariny.
Sometimes we live through things that are not right.
Misy fanafiana, fangalarana.
There's still robberies, theft,
sy ny sisa sy ny sisa.
and things like that.
Dia le fitsarana no avy amin'izay fotoana izay dia hotsaraina daholo ny zavatra tsy mety rehetrarehetra.
And when the judgment comes, then everything will be judged.
Dia mety azo azontsika saina amin'izay ngamba mampitomany be amin'izao.
Now you can understand, I think, why John is crying and weeping here.
Satria raha tsisy manohy planin'Andriamanitra dia midika izany fa zao no izy.
Because if God's plan doesn't take place, then the life we live is all there is.
Zao ny atao hoe fiainana tanteraka.
This is the perfect life.
Fa tanteraka ve zao?
But do you think this life is perfect? No.
Mbola mijary, mbola tsy mbola, mbola mafy.
We live through suffering, even if I pinch you, it's still painful.
Mbola miatra, mbola misola.
We losing hair, we getting old.
Mbola misy ratraposa sisa.
We still have sufferings, sometimes heartaches.
Dia izay azontsika tsaina no mahatonga an'izany hoe fa manina izy mitomany mafy raha ohatra ka hoe tsisy mavoly.
So now we understand why John is weeping if nobody can open the book. That's cruel.
Dia ilay fanontaniana mipetraka izany amin'ny andiny faharoa dia ohatra raha ohatra ny adika amin'ny teny hafa dia ohatra izao.
So in verse 2, the question that we ask in verse 2, if, in other words,
ilay fanontaniana mipetraka ilay anjely zany dia hoe iza mendrika hitondra ny planin'Andriamanitra io ho amin'ny fahatanterahana.
So in other words, the question that's asked by God's angel in verse 2 is this: who among the created order is worthy to bring this plan of God in its completion? And the answer is, it seems like no one can do that. So we're going to read the verse 5 to 10, and there's the good news that yes, someone can open the scroll. So I'll read the verse 5 to 10.
Ary ny anankiray tamin'ireo olona nanao tamiko hoe aza mitomany indro ny liona avy amin'ny firenen'i Joda dia ny solofon'i Davida no efa naharesy ka hanokatra ny boky sy hamahy mitomboka seny fito. Ary hitako fa indro teo afovoan'ny seza ny fiandrianana sy ny zava-manan'aina efatra, ary teo afovoan'ny olona dia misy zanak'ondry mitsangana tahaka ny efa vovony, nanatandroka fito sy maso fito. Dia ny fanafiton'Andriamanitra mirahana ankany amin'ny tany rehetra. Ary tonga izy ka nandray ny boky teo an-tanana ankavanan'ilay mipetraka teo ambony seza fiandrianana. Ary efa nandray ny boky izy, ny zava-manan'aina efatra sy ny olona efatra amin'ny roapolo dia niankohaka teo anatrehan'ny zanak'ondry. Sady samy nanana lokanga sy ny fivolamena feno didi-kazo manitra izy, dia avavaka toy ny olona masina izany. Ary nihirafirambavao izy ka nanao hoe ianao no mendrika aka ny boky sy hamahy tomboka seny, fa voavony ianao ary ny rahanao nanavotanao an'Andriamanitra olona avy amin'ny tany, olona avy tamin'ny fokom-pirenena rehetra sy samy manana hafa fiteny sy ny olona ary ny firenena rehetra. Ary efa nataonao fanjakana sy mpisorona ho an'Andriamanitra ireo ary manjaka ambony tany izy.
So Revelation 5, 5 to 10. And one of the elders said to me, weep no more. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has conquered, so that he can open the scroll and its 7 seals. And between the throne and the 4 living creatures, and among the elders, I saw a lamb standing, as though it had been slain, with 7 horns and with 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. And he went and took the scroll from the right hand of him who was seated on the throne. And when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sang a new song saying, worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals. For you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God from every tribe and language and people and nation. And you have made them a kingdom, and priests to our God, and they shall reign on the earth. So that's the good news. Someone was able to open the book.
Dia eto misy kisarisary tsy leliona sy rakivy sony ty fa fa le liona sy le zanak'ondry.
So who is that being who's able to, was worthy to open it? Here is another image. It's not an image of a lion and a monkey anymore, but it's a lion and a lamb.
Dia nitoetoetra n'io liona io andiny fadimy a.
So in verse 5, he gives a description of the lion.
Dia voalaza fa hoe liona avy amin'ny fireneny Joda.
So it says that it's a lion of the tribe of Judah.
Dia hitantsika mombamomba zany ao amin'ny Genesisy 7:24-25.
So we see they talk about that lion is talked about in Genesis verse 49, Genesis chapter 49, verse 8 to 12.
Dia tsy ho jerentsika eto ilay izy fa afaka jerentsika rehefa manam-potoantsika.
I'm not going to go through that specific scripture now, but when we have time, we can go read through it.
Fa ny zavatra ambaran'ilay hoe liona dia hoe mahery sy manam-pahefana.
So the image of the lion, what the lion means is that it's almighty and it has authority and power.
Dia manaraka aorianan'io indray amin'ny resaka amin'ilay hoe solofon'ny Davidy izy.
So here as well we talk about the root of David.
Dia izay hitantsika amin'ny Isaia 40:10-11.
So we see they talk about this in Isaiah 11 verse 1 to 10.
Dia izay indray miresaka amin'ny hoe marina izy sady rariny.
And it expresses justice and fairness.
Zany hoe tsy mahery sy manam-pahefana fotsiny izy.
So it's not just almighty and powerful and authoritative,
fa marina sady rariny.
but it's also just and fair.
Zany hoe tsy refesy mandidy fotsiny izy a.
So it's not just that it's sovereign,
fa izy ihany koa dia tena hoe tia-mpanjaka ny rariny.
but he also wants justice to reign, justice and fairness to reign.
Angamba ny zava-doza be raha ohatra ka hoe tena hoe mahery sy manam-pahefana izy nefany tsy manao ny rariny sy ny marina fa manao ny fanohatra amin'izay.
So it would be awful if he was almighty, powerful, but doesn't know justice or fairness.
Dia ny zavatra tenen'ity amin'ny fadimy ity eto hoe efa nandresy izy.
So in this verse 5 it showed that he already won.
Dia nefa ny ohatrotriny ahoana nefa izany fandreseny zany.
So what is justice then? How does it look?
Dia hiditra amin'ilay sarin'ilay zanak'ondry indray tsika andiny fahaenina.
So now we're going to look through the idea of a lamb.
Dia ity zanak'ondry ity indray raha ohatra tiatsika jerena, io tsy ilay ondry ohatra ny eto Madagasikara ilay hoe sarin'ondry hoe zavatra azonao rehefa mandresy amina fifaninanana ianao.
So here when you talk about lamb, it's not like what the idea of lamb is that you have in Madagascar, which is often like the reward of the prize that you earn when you win a football competition, for example.
Fa ny ondry tamin'ny tena misy dikany tena mavesatra ny ondry na zanak'ondry ho an'ny Israelita tamin'izany.
But for the Israelites, the lamb had really a powerful meaning.
Satria reny no ataon'ny zareo fanafitra fahazava famolan-keloka.
Because the lamb is what you used to bring when you had to do a sacrifice for washing your sins.
Dia ny zavatra voasoratra ao amin'io andiny fahaenina indray hoe nanana tandroka fito izy.
So in verse 6 they talk about the fact that the lamb had 7 horns.
Inona indray zany diazany tandroka fito za.
So what does the 7 horns mean?
Dia raha jerentsika any amin'ny Deutéronomie 7:17.
So if we look at Deuteronomy 33:17,
dia hitandroka fito koa dia maneho sarina fahefana tanteraka.
Those 7 horns talk in complete power.
Dia ity misy karazana ohatrany hoe sipapa kely rehefa mamaky an'ity boky ity sisika.
So here's a little tip when we read this book.
Rehefa mahita chiffre sika hoe fito.
So when you read the book of Revelation, if you look at if you see a number, the number 7,
dia matetika izay milaza fahatanterahana.
Usually it means completeness.
Completeness,
totally and complete.
Dia eto zao dia mbola voalaza koa nanana maso anaky fito izy.
So here, for example, they talk about seven eyes.
dia efa voalaza ikany hoe inona tiakandreo maso anaty fito ireo a dia ozy izy hoe fanafitona Andriamanitra.
So the 7 eyes are the 7 spirits of God.
dia tsy hoe nanana fanafito Andriamanitra
It's not that he had 7 spirits,
fa nidikan'ilay fito a hoe ao aminy a ny fahafenoan'ny fanan'Andriamanitra.
so it just means that it is in him, in the Lamb, that you find God's completeness and God's completeness. Yeah?
dia izay zany ny toetra n'ilay ondry indray eto
So that's the character, the behavior of the Lamb.
ao aminy fahefana tanteraka
In him is the complete authority,
ao aminy ihany koa ny fahafenoan'ny fanan'Andriamanitra.
and in that Lamb is the complete spirit of God, full and complete spirit of God.
dia eo amin'ny fanontaniana mipetraka hoe inona raha mahamendrika amin'ilay Jesosy
So now we ask the question, what makes Jesus worthy then?
satria izay ilay fanontaniana iza mendrika hanokatra n'ilay boky a sy nitomboka seny.
Because the question was, who was worthy to open the scroll and the 7 seals?
dia ozy izy hoe ilay zanak'ondry ilay liona Joda sy ilay zanak'ondry.
And the answer was the Lion of Judah and the Lamb.
dia eto a mamaly an'izay fanontaniana izay ty andiny ity a izay efa hitantsika teo ihany fa hovakiana indray.
So the verse that we just saw gives us the answer, but we're going to read again.
inona mahamendrika an' Jesosy
What makes Jesus worthy then to open the scroll?
ianao mendrika haka ny boky sy hamanotomboka seny fa voavono ianao ary ny ranao nanavitanao an'Andriamanitra olona avy tamin'ny fokom-pirenena rehetra sy samy hafa fiteny sy ny olona ary ny firenena rehetra.
Worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God from every tribe and language and people and nation.
inona mahamendrika an' Jesosy
Why was Jesus worthy?
inona mahamendrika an'ilay zanak'ondry
Why was the Lamb worthy?
satria voavono izy.
Because he was slain.
dia zavatra hafahafa be mandray marian'izany hoe inona ny ifandraisan'izany.
So sometimes it's a bit strange to hear that to make the connection between him being slain and him being worthy.
fa rehefa mandikitsika inona mahatonga an' Jesosy hoe voavono a dia mahatonga anazy hoe manana fahefana hitondra ny planin'Andriamanitra.
So why was Jesus slain, and why does it give him the authority to lead God's people?
dia resaka amin'ilay hoe zanak'ondry amin'izay tsika izao.
So for example, now we're going to talk about the Lamb.
dia raha tadidinareo a nisy fotoana ijona mpanao batisa na vao nahitan'i Jesosy a dia ny zavatra nyteneny hoe indro ny zanak'ondrin'Andriamanitra izay manaisitra ny fahotan'izao tontolo izao.
So if you remember when John the Baptist saw Jesus the first time, he said, "Here is the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world."
dia ny ao anatin'ilay sarin'ilay hoe zanak'ondry a
The idea of the Lamb,
sorona natao a mba hazavana famelan-kelok'Andriamanitra ilay izy.
so it's a sacrifice that you give in order to have God's forgiveness.
sorona nataon'ireo mpisorona be a
So it's a sacrifice that was done by priests.
dia afindrany ao afindrany otriny afindrany ao amin'ilay ondry a ny fahotana
All the sins were transferred on the Lamb,
dia voavono ilay ondry
and then you killed the Lamb. The Lamb was killed,
dia voavelany leloky ny vahoaka.
and then through that, God's people's sins were forgiven.
dia ohatr'izay ny sarin'ilay ondry
So that's the idea of the Lamb.
ohatrany hoe mitondra fandresena ho an'ilay vahoaka.
He brings victory to people.
dia le resaka resantsika eto nefany a tsy zanak'ondry tsy biby fa Jesosy Kristy.
So here we're talking not about a lamb, not an animal, but Jesus Christ.
dia inona mahasamy hafa an'i Jesosy Kristy sy ny fanatitra rehetrarehetra vitatra izay.
What's the difference between Jesus Christ and all the sacrifices that were done before that?
dia Jesosy Kristy a dia zanak'Andriamanitra.
It's the fact that Jesus is God's son.
Jesosy Kristy a dia tsy namoty izy.
Jesus has never sinned.
Tsisy ota tao anatiny.
There was no sin in him.
Dia raha ny tena marina zany a, raha olon-tsotra ohatra hoe za na ianao natao fanatrina dia zany efa manana ota, ianao manana ota.
So if we were, if we just take a random person, for example, me or you, to be slain, sacrificed, I am sinful, you are sinful.
Dia rariny raha maty a rehefa miatrika amin'ny fitsaran'Andriamanitra.
So it's normal if we die when we face God's justice.
Fa eto ilay zanak'ondry a,
But here, the Lamb,
tanteraka izy
he is complete, sinless,
dia amin'ny lafiny iray a tsy rariny.
and it's just that that they be slain.
Tsy zavatra tokony miatra taminy ny fahatezeran'Andriamanitra.
God's anger should not have fallen on the Lamb.
Raha tsika tamin'ny toerany dia mendrika ao antsika.
If we were on their place, their position, it was worthy of us to be killed.
Fa izy a tsy nananota nefa izy Andriamanitra.
But the Lamb had no sin, yet it was God.
Nefa miatra taminy a ny fahatezerana.
And yet God's anger fell onto them.
Dia amin'ny lafiny iray zany a, izay no mampandresy anazy.
That's why he is a winner. He is victorious.
Raha tsika dia resin'ny fahafatesana tsika satria tsika mendrika an'ilay fahafatesana.
If we die, if it was us, death would have been victorious on us because we sinful.
Fa satria Jesosy ny masina tsy manatsiny zanak'Andriamanitra.
But Jesus is holy. He's blameless. He's God's son.
Dia izy a no maty izy fa nandresan'ny fahafatesana izy tsy nanana teny farany tamin'ny fahafatesana.
He died, but death had no power on him.
Dia izay ny voalaza ao anatin'io teny hoe efa nandresy ilay liona ny Juda.
That's why it said here that the Lion of Judah had already won.
Dia manaraka ny zavatra ampatsiahivin'ity teny ity zany hoe tsarovy Jesosy.
Just so this piece of scripture is reminding to us that, hey, think about Jesus.
Ao anatin'ny fahoriana kristiana tamin'izany, ao anatin'ny fahanenjehana dia teny boky hoe tsarovy Jesosy.
So in the context of suffering and persecution, this word is saying, hey, think about Jesus.
Nandresy tamin'ny fahafatesana izy.
He defeated death.
Ilay planin'Andriamanitra ny amin'ny fanavotana sy ny amin'ny fitsarana, miatra amin'ny fitsaran'Andriamanitra izy.
In God's plan of redemption and salvation and judgment, He is the one on whom God's judgment fell.
Dia tao anatin'izay a nefa nividiny olona izy tamin'ny alalan'ny rano.
Yet through His blood, He bought people.
Izy no mendrika hitondra amin'ny planin'Andriamanitra ny amin'ny fitsarana sy ny amin'ny fanavotana.
He's the one worthy to bring God's plan of judgment and redemption to completion.
Satria izy no efa nandresy.
Because He's the one who has already won.
Dia amin'ny lafiny iray ihany koa izy no efa nizaka ny fitsaran'Andriamanitra ka vovony.
So He's the one who went through God's judgment and He already died.
Ary tamin'ny alalan'izany nanavotana antsika.
And it's through that He saved us.
Dia fantaniana mipetraka dia misy oatra azy ve?
So the question is there anyone just like is there anyone like Him?
Misy olona afaka hamono amin'ny boky oatra azy ve?
Is there anyone else who's worthy to open the book, the scroll?
Tsisy.
No one.
Fa izy rehetra.
Only Him.
Dia tiako be ilay hira nataontsika tamin'ny voalohany teo hoe nanarina fahotantsika izy.
So I really like the book the song that we read when we started worship, which said He covered our sins.
Efa nandresy izy ary nanarina fahotantsika.
He already won and He covered our sins.
Dia ty resaka fanarana fahotana ity tiako asiana resaka kely a.
I'd like to talk more about the fact the idea of covering our sins.
Ny sary aseho momba an'i Jesosy Kristy eto a dia manarona ny henantsika izy.
What it says here is that Jesus covers our shame.
No ny amin'ny fahotantsika dia tahaka ny hoe mitanjakantsika eo masina.
So, yeah, because of our sins, it's as if we're naked in God's eyes.
Fa nataon'ilay zanak'ondry dia nisaromany ny henantsika izy.
But what the Lamb did is that He covered our shame.
Tsy nalany baraka.
He didn't bring more shame to us or humiliate us,
Fa nisaromany.
but He covered our sins.
Dia nefa ny an'ity tena zava-dehibe. Ahoana nanaromany amin'ny fahotantsika?
So here is an important question. How did He cover our sins?
Niboritany izy teo amin'ny hazo fizarana ahafahany manarona fahotantsika.
He was naked on the cross in order to cover our sins.
Tsy haiko raha azontsika tsaina ny alalan'izany zanak'Andriamanitra be voninahitra mpaharan'izao rehetrarehetra zao niboritany teo amin'ny hazo fizarana mba ho voasarona ny fahotako sy ny
I don't know if you can fully grasp that idea that God's Son, with a lot of all His glory and all His might, He was made naked in order to cover our sins.
dia tena zava-dehibe amintsika ilay hoe Andriamanitra izy nefany zany ny zavatra ny aretany sy ny ijaliany ho amin'ny fanavotana antsika.
It's really important that you understand He's God, and yet He went through that in order to save us.
Raha tsy Andriamanitra izy dia tsy ohatry ny hoe tsy dia tena zava-dehibe zany fa izy Andriamanitra be voninahitra no ohatry ny hoe afa-baraka teo amin'ny hazo fizarana.
So if He wasn't God, then it would be too much of a humiliation. But He is God, and He was humiliated totally on the cross.
Dia voasarona ny fahotantsika izay nirona azy.
And through that, our sins were covered.
Dia manaraka le maha-Andriamanitra an' Jesosy tena zava-dehibe atao anatin'ny bokin'ny Apokalipsy dia izay no vakintsika eto hoe izy mandray ny voninahitra omena an'Andriamanitra. Eo amin'ny seza manana seza fiandrianana izy fa teraina amin'Andriamanitra azy.
So in this book of Revelation, the fact that the deity of Jesus, the fact that He is God, is really important, and all God's glory is directed to Him. He is worshipped.
Vakiko ty teny ity manambara an'izay voninahitra ny zanak'ondry zay.
So here I'm going to read this word about the glory of the Lamb.
Dia ngamba tonga dia vakiko fotsiny le misoratra maintimainty ireny.
I'm just going to read the parts that are in bold.
Ny zanak'ondry izay nivonoina dia mendrika andray hery sy harena sy fahendrena sy faherezana sy aza sy voninahitra ary saotra. Dia eo ambany ho an'ilay mipetraka eo ambony seza fiandrianana sy ho an'ny zanak'ondry anieny ny saotra sy ny aza sy ny voninahitra ary ny fanjakana mandrakizay.
Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise. To Him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be praise and honor and glory and power forever and ever.
Dia iaraka iteny amin'ireto karazana biby ireto tsika hoe amen.
So with like all these beings, we are going to say amen.
Amen.
Dia ity fantaniana ity koa apetraka amintsika anatin'ny famaranana ity toroty ity.
And so in closing this preach, there's one question I have for you.
Ahoana no isitrinantsika fankahirezana avy amin'ity fanambarana hitantsika eto ity?
How can we draw encouragement through the revelation that we saw now?
Ahoana ny ahafahantsika mahery rehefa mamaky an'ity andalatsoratra ny vakity ity?
How can we be encouraged and strengthened when we read this piece of scripture that we read now?
Dia fandazaiko teo tsy mitovy ny vanim-potoana ny iainantsika sy ny iainan'ny zareo tamin'izany.
As I said, we don't live in the same period or the same context as they lived that time.
Zareo tena niaina fahoriana be tena niatra tamanena ny maha-kristiana anazy.
They really lived a lot of persecution and their life was in danger.
Izay tsy hitovizany amintsika amin'izao fotoana izao.
It's not something that we live through, probably not something that we live through at the moment now.
fa misy zavatra itovizantsika kosa nefa ny amin'ny zareo ary mbola itovizan'ny taranaka farana ny hoavy ihany koa.
But there's still things, similarities and things that we can live through, the similarities of things we live through now and for in future generations.
Satria afatra tokana no asaina iainany zareo sy zarainy zareo.
Because the message that they've lived and that they are sharing here is the same.
Dia ny afatra ny filazantsaran'i Jesosy Kristy.
And it's the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Dia izay ihany koa ny afatra ho antsika tsirairay avy mipetraka eto androany.
And that same message is the same now.
Mila mila iainantsika ny filazantsaran'i Jesosy.
We have to live the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Mila torintsika ny filazantsara.
We have to preach the good news of Jesus Christ.
Dia tsy ny olona rehetra ny tia mihaino an'izany.
And it's not everyone who likes to hear that message.
Mila henon'le mpiray vodirindrina aminao zany hoe Jesosy ilay zanak'ondry zany.
Even your neighbor must hear that Jesus is the Lamb.
Mila henon'ny mpiara-miasa aminao zany.
Even your colleagues must know that Jesus is the Lamb.
Mila henon'ny fianakavianao sy ny namanao zany.
Your friends and family have to hear that Jesus is the Lamb.
Mila henon'ny foko maro eto Madagasikara zany.
All the tribes around Madagascar have to hear that Jesus is the Lamb.
Satria zany ny fahamarina.
Because that is the truth.
Izy no nanaisitra ny fahotantsika.
He is the one who covered and took away our sins.
Dia tsika amin'izao fotoana izao indray mihaino raha ohatra hoe ohatr'izao ny toe-pontsika amin'izao fotoana izao hoe marina daholo kosa raha angano finoana rehetrarehetra fa tsisy diso zany.
So now we might think, in our time, there's people who say, any truth is, any faith is truth. There's no one absolute truth.
Dia tsy havita hitory an'io vitsitsika hoe any amin'ny olona mety hoe tsy tia handriana azy.
So if we start having that mindset, then we will never be able to preach those words that good news to people who need to hear it.
Fa ny olona tamin'izany, kristiana tamin'izany fotoana tena vonona namonjitra ny ainy mihitsy izy ho an'ny filazantsara.
But Christians in those days really were ready to die for the gospel.
Satria resy lahatra izy hoe ire ihany no tena marina.
Because they knew that was the absolute truth and the only true faith.
Na dia nataon'ny olona ary zareo hoe sekta.
Even if people say, you're a cult, you're a sect.
Zareo resy lahatra hoe Jesosy rery ihany ny fahamarinana sy lalana makany amin'andriamanitra.
They were fully convinced that Jesus was the only way and truth to the Lord, to God.
Dia inganetsika rehetrarehetra androany azo hery amin'ny alalan'izany.
And I hope that each one of us were encouraged by this.
Ninina mety zavatra lalovantsika.
Whatever you go through in your life,
ninina mety fahoriana lalovantsika.
whatever persecution or difficulties you face,
ndao atsiarana Jesosy.
let us all think about Jesus.
Tsisy fahoriana izay tsy fanidina.
There's no difficulty or persecution that he hasn't suffered through.
Fa izy mbola avy.
But he was stronger than all of those.
Mbola hiverina nosola mifevola.
One day we'll still have hair or hair will grow back. Our bodies will be restored. Whatever suffering we face, you will see in the end it will all be worthy. And to God only be the glory.
Nyamarana koa anazy misy témoignage kelina rangato ao anatin'le formation tiako zaraina.
And then just to really finish, there's a little testimony about someone who lived through the Reformation.
Dia ny anaran'ity rangaty
and that person is called
Jean-Louis. Dia tantara-kevitra izy Jean-Louis talohan'ny Lutera sy Calvin izy ohatran'ny hoe nialo lalana amin'ny formation.
So Jean-Louis was kind of a pioneer of the Reformation before Luther and Calvin.
Izy ny anisan'ny sanjoro voalohany nanohatra ny fampianaran-diso tao amin'ny fiangonana tamin'izany.
He was one of the first who really took a stand to talk about to counter the false doctrines that there were in the church at that time. And he was persecuted because of that. He was really sent to jail.
dia niatra tamanay koa ny fijoroana.
And the fact that he took a stand really was he put his life at risk.
Dia tao anatin'ny trano maizina izy nanoratra ny taratasy anankiray dia ity misy ampahany kely tiako zaraina antsika.
So when he was in jail, he wrote a letter, and this is just an extract of the letters that he wrote.
Dia ingany ho vavaka ny potsika tsirairay avy ilay izy.
And may this be a prayer in all of in our hearts.
Dia vakiko amin'ny teny gasy dia aveo farany tsiresy amin'ny teny anglisy.
Read in Malagasy and Tires will read in English.
Sambatra izay olona maharitra fakapanahy fa rehefa voazaha toetra izy dia handray ny satroboninahitry ny fiainana izay nilazain'ny tompo omena izay tia azy ao amin'ny Jakoba 1:12. Satroboninahitra omeny tompo ahy antenaiko mafy ary ho anareo koa mpiaro mazoto ny fahamarinana sy ho an'izay rehetra maharitra amin'ny fitiavan'i Jesosy Kristy tompontsika izay nijalo antsika ka namela ny modelo antsika mba hahafahantsika manaraka ny diany. Izy dia tsy maintsy nijaly araka ny teniny ihany ary isika izay momba azy dia tsy maintsy mijaly miaraka amin'ilay lohantsika. Fa hoy izy, raha misy te hanaraka aoka izy handany tenany hitondra ny azo fijaliana ka hanaraka. Jesosy eo, tario hanaraka anao izahay izay osa, satria raha tsy misarika anay ianao, raha tsy mitarika anay ianao dia tsy ho afaka hanaraka anao izahay. Atanjaho ny saiko mba hatanjaka sy hitombona. Malemy ny nofo fa ny fahasoavanao anie hialolanana anay, hanampy anay ary hamonjy anay, satria raha tsy eo ianao dia tsy afaka manao na inona izahay. Ary ambonin'izany rehetra izany dia tsy afaka miatrika fahafatesana mahery vaika noho ny amin'ny anaranao izahay. Omeo fanahy mahatombona izahay, omeo fo tsy mivadi-po, finoana madio, fanantenana velona, fitiavana tanteraka, ahafahanay manolotra ny ainay ho anao ampaharetana sy ampifaliana. Amen.
Blessed is the one who perseveres on the trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. James 1 verse 12. Glorious crown which the Lord will bestow on me, I firmly hope, and on you too, fervent defenders of the truth, and on all those who persevere in the love of our Lord Jesus Christ, who suffered for us, leaving us his example, so that we can follow in his footsteps. He had to suffer, as he himself said, and we who are his members must suffer with him, who is our head. For he said, if anyone wants to come with me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. O divine Jesus, through us, weak as we are, because if you do not through us, we will not be able to follow you. Strengthen my mind so that it may be strong and determined. The flesh is weak, but may your grace warn us, assist us, and save us. Because without you, we can do nothing, and we are unable to face cruel death for your name. Give us a resolute spirit and intrepid heart, pure faith, living hope, perfect charity, so that we may lay out our life for you with patience and joy. Amen.
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 Dia marary antsika tena hoe ahery amin'ny fiainantsika amin'ny fijoroantsika varombelona dia samy varombelona mahatoka an Jesosy sy tia daholo antsika amin'ny lafi-piainantsika rehetra.
So I encourage us to be strong, to stand strong, and to be faithful witness of Jesus Christ in all aspects of our lives. Thank you. And don't forget, remember Jesus Christ. Look to Jesus.
Amen.
Amen.